What's up? What's up? What's up?
Yo.
What's up, you guys? Happy Thursday.
You forgot what day it was.
How did you know?
You Paul, that Paul was like, now what day it is?
They use it. Sheesh, can we go back to Tuesday?
No, bro, it's gone.
This week is almost over, and I still have tons of things to accomplish this week.
Hey, man.
And Friday is here, and that deadline is like heart pounding. Friday's coming. Because at 12 o'clock on Friday, no one does any work. No emails get answered. So all closings that are scheduled, they get pushed back if nobody's doing work. And then Monday, they're trying to figure out what did they miss. And then I don't get a response back to 5 o'clock. So then you back in the rat race again, you know? Sheesh. Welcome, you guys. Come on in the room.
My name is Antonio Denmark.
I am Ashley Denmark.
I don't think we said our name on like the last 5 podcasts.
Yes, we did. I don't believe you.
I promise I ain't saying my name in so long.
That doesn't matter. What matters is today. What matters is this moment.
I can't deal with you.
That's what matters. That's what matters.
In the backstage, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Alex in the back. He's gonna bring y'all so much knowledge. Be instrumental. He's gonna tell y'all about his real estate journey. He's touched a lot of different things. If you are on the sideline when it comes to real estate, if you're looking for more information when it comes to real estate and getting started, you do not want to miss Alex talk about his journey and the things he's been through.
Absolutely. Alex has one of the best podcasts as it relates to real estate, and it's the Flipping Empire Show. And it's like freaking awesome. I remember listening to it so many times before I actually met Alex, and it was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be on this podcast, and it was crazy just to know that it's possible, you know.
Totally agree.
Right.
All right, so we're gonna do a 1-minute break real quick, and then when we come back, we're gonna have Alex on. Make sure you are asking questions. His time is valuable. He don't do this that much, so make sure that you take full advantage of it.
And share this with others who are interested in overcoming their fears. Go ahead and tag them, add them in, and let's do it, you guys. What's up? Hey, Alex.
What's going on, guys? I got to say right from the jump, I love your energy. You guys are like seasoned podcast pros.
I wish.
Thank you, Alex.
I wish. Man,
work in progress.
Definitely a work in progress. When I tell you this takes every fiber of energy I have to do this, because I am such a introvert person. And I got to really psych myself out to do this. So I kind of I'm a different person when I'm doing this. So understand that means a lot coming from you, and it's just not natural.
Well, I got to tell you, man, you're making it look good. You could have fooled me. I would never have guessed you're an introvert. So just love the dynamics. And you know why this works from what I can tell? Because you guys are being authentic. You're being yourselves. You're having some fun, putting yourself out there. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. This is fun. Antonio used to run from any videos we had to make, any type of promos.
Yeah.
it would take an hour just to record 30 seconds. I promise you.
I'd love to see some of the bloopers at some point.
It was horrible.
They're horrible. They're like
horrible.
horrible to like. It was so horrible. It made me want to do right. I'm like, oh my God, I can't be that bad.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, I'm grateful to be here, guys. So
yes.
We're grateful to have you. We are so grateful to have you. I want to start off by saying for the viewers who don't know who Alex Pardo is, who is Alex Pardo?
yeah, I'll give you the brief version of it. But first and foremost, faith is most important to me. Followed by family. Been married for a decade to my wife Natalie. Got 2 little girls. Just celebrated their 7th and 9th birthday. So family is very, very important to me. You know, people always ask why I do what I do, and I realize that Antonio asked you that everybody says family. But faith and family to me, that's at the top, right? And then impact, right? So like I've always had a heart for service and for wanting to give and contribute. And I genuinely get more joy and fulfillment out of pouring into people, which is why I love doing this type of thing. Real estate's cool. It's a vehicle. It's fun. It gets to provide for the lifestyle. But again, contribution is what really drives joy and fulfillment for me. So born and raised in Miami, my parents are from Cuba. I'm the only entrepreneur in my family. And I feel like I started to kind of get the bug for entrepreneurship as a kid. Growing up in a baseball park, I would buy packs of cards for 50 cents, $1, and I'd flip them for another 50 cents. And I like the idea. I like that concept of buying low and selling high. Fast forward, I went to college, and for whatever reason, that light got like, it fell out because I thought I wanted to be like a CEO or a CFO of a big company. So I took a job with General Electric in their financial management program. And it was one of those defining moments for me. I remember 3-4 months into that job, I absolutely hated it. I was working 70, 80 hours a week. My eyes were like cross-eyed because I was only looking at Excel and PowerPoint all day long. And I got to tell you, we're going to talk about failures and mistakes and lessons learned. And we were joking that I've made a ton of those, and I'm happy to share them. But one of the things I've been pretty good at, guys, that I think is valuable for those watching and listening is if you don't know what you want, ask yourself what you don't want, because that can lead to clarity. And one of the things I did was I quickly realized working in that job, I figured I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew it wasn't that. And I looked at my boss and her boss all the way up the ladder, and I'm like, I wouldn't want that job no matter how much they pay me. And so I finished that 2-year program. I went backpacking around Europe for 3.5 months. That's when I was on train rides. That's when I started to educate myself on real estate, reading the classics, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when I got back to Miami, at 25 years old, I'm embarrassed to admit, but it's part of the story, I moved back in with my parents. Single man, 25 years old. Antonio, talk to me. Not a good look, dude.
Not a good look. Literally, man, you gonna think I'm crazy, but they was talking about that on the radio this morning about should a woman even consider dating a man that's living home with his mom at that age? Like,
nope.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that was it's funny now looking back. I'm 43, so that was almost 20 years ago. But that was a big motivator for me. And so I moved back in with my parents. I went to this marketing for deals boot camp in Atlanta, and I literally got home and I plucked out a pre-foreclosure letter from the 3-ring binder. I went to Kinko's. It wasn't even FedEx. It was Kinko's at the time. And I just made photocopies, and it was so ghetto because you would see the black 3 dots. And I started, I'm not kidding you. And I started sending out my first direct mail campaign to pre-foreclosures. And then fast forward just under 3 months. It was like 2 to 3 months later. Ended up closing my first deal, made 44 grand, which I ended up splitting with a buddy of mine. I was too scared to do it by myself. So I brought in a friend that had a little bit more experience, and I made $22,000. He made $22,000, and off to the races. I've been unemployable ever since.
Oh man,
let's go.
Oh man, you touched on so many things that we're gonna have to bring up. All right. One of the first things you said was, and it touched me. There's faith, there's family, and then there's impact. How long did it take you to realize that impact is what satisfies you and not the money that came with real estate? How long, like when did that light bulb switch?
Yeah.
It's a great question. It took a minute, right? So I got started at the end of 2005, and it wasn't until 2009 that I started to like put out content. Now, back then, obviously, we didn't have social media, wasn't in 2009 what it is today. So I remember, because of some of the success I'd had locally in my market, I remember people approaching me and asking me questions. And again, because I have a giver's heart, I would just share and share and share. And what really resonated with me and impacted was when they actually did something with the information. And then they came back to me and said, hey, I appreciate you because of XYZ. Here are the results of implementing, right? And like that gave me like a natural high. Now, at the time, I don't know that I had discovered that was my purpose. I was still trying to figure it out. I was making money, but I wasn't running a business. I was a one-man show. I think when I read the 4-Hour Workweek, which is one of these books back here, I think there it is, somewhere behind me. There it is. I hired a virtual assistant for the first time in 2009. And that's when I kind of started to like build a team. But yeah, it probably took a good 4 years or so until I started to realize that like, man, there's something to this thing called giving. Right. And I think it's Tony Robbins talks about a life worth living is a life of giving and contribution. And so we can dive much deeper into that. But that's when I started to discover that I really want to help people.
Man, I'm going to go sideways for a little bit. Okay. So when I graduated college, I started coaching football. And I loved coaching football. Like, it was everything.
That was he eat, sleep,
did it 24/7.
Yeah.
And I always thought that it was the love of football that why I was good at it. But it wasn't the football that I was good at. It was the helping of young men, and it was the pouring into young men that once I stopped coaching and I started coaching real estate that I realized
there's a gap between when you stopped coaching and you started just doing real estate, and he felt like he wasn't fulfilled. He kept saying, I'm going to go back to football. I got to go back to coaching. Okay, once I get everything in place, I'm going to go back to coaching.
Yeah.
And then when he started coaching in real estate, he was like, it wasn't football because I'm getting that same satisfaction. I'm getting that same feeling just from coaching people versus coaching football only.
Yep. So I went sideways. So I'm sorry.
No, I think that's so important because most people, when they invest in real estate, they want to invest because they feel like it's a financial gain, but it's the freedom to be able to do what it is that you were put on this earth to do and to do it how you're created to do it. And without that, real estate is just the byproduct of it. Yeah. But without that, you don't have that freedom. So I think that's amazing. I thought it was really crazy that you're the first entrepreneur in your family.
Yeah. Yeah. The first one. I was always, I don't have a rags to riches story. My middle class family, my parents busted their back to provide for my sister and I. And we certainly weren't handed everything, but they worked really hard to provide just a good roof over our head. We always have food in our stomach. So I don't have a rags to riches type story like that, but I certainly didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. And I was always taught and raised the old school thinking, right? Like go to school, get good grades, go get a good job. Now, fortunately for me, I also didn't have parents. Like I had parents that really supported me. So I remember when I told my parents, hey, I'm leaving my $52,000 a year salary, which for a 22-year-old working for GE, especially, back in 2003 when I signed with them, that's pretty decent. That's not bad. Right. And I remember telling my parents, hey, I'm going to leave this to go start my own business. They're like, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, I'm 100% sure. They're like, well, go make it happen. Right. So like, I didn't have anybody like, cause sometimes parents, like we try to protect their kids and we share from our lens what we think they should do. But I don't think that's the role of a parent. The role of a parent is to really encourage. One of the roles is to encourage and bring out the talents that unique individual has. And for me, like, guys, I was not wired to work for somebody. I just wasn't.
That's what's up. I have to remind Ashley her role as a mother a lot because she is a hover bear and she don't want nothing ever bad to happen. I got 5 kids. So like, it's like, no, don't do it. But
and then I have a hard time trying to put my hands on all of them to make sure that I can protect them all. And I'm just like, hey, do what I say, please. And Tanya's like, no, do what you want to do, and we'll adjust.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
These kids don't come with a manual, so I'm not gonna pretend like I got all the answers.
woo.
They don't. They don't. Oh my goodness.
Okay. So why wholesaling? What about wholesaling grabbed your attention and took you down that journey?
You know, wholesaling, it's great when it comes to generating cash. And when I got started in this business, like probably most people listening, I didn't have cash, right? Like, and so now there's pros and cons to that, right? The barriers to entry are so low that like it feels like everybody and their mom jumps into wholesaling. So you really got to like separate yourself from the competition. But I like the idea of there's no risk, right? I didn't need money, I didn't need credit, I didn't need experience. Like I just needed to take action. I needed to put the work in, and there's no substitute for the work. And that's what I really want people to hang on every word, is that I think we live in a microwave society, guys, that people want instant gratification, and they see social media and they see like the flash and the wires and the checks and all this stuff. But what comes behind it is work, right? And so you got to be willing to put the time and effort and energy in. And for me, I like the thought of, again, just wholesaling is very simple. You find a property to discount, put it under contract, and then you either assign it or you double close. And there's all these different ways to structure these things, right? But now the flip side to that coin, guys, is that I got into real estate because I wanted to generate cash flow and build wealth. And one of the biggest mistakes I personally made is I got addicted to the transactional income, right? And so if you're listening to this and you're kind of on the sideline, wholesaling is great to generate cash, but then make sure you have a plan for that cash. Make sure that you're putting that cash into assets that generate cash flow. Otherwise, you're only going to be as good as your last deal. And I remember getting to the point in 2018 where I started to get burned out by this business. I'm like, I'm tired of going deal after deal after deal. And while I was grateful for the money, again, like if I wanted to go on a 6-month vacation, I didn't do any deals, I'd be hurting. I might be going back into my parents' house, right? And that's and so just I want people to hear me, like wholesaling is great, but use it to generate cash and make sure that you're, putting it into cash flow producing assets. I'll share this and then I'll kind of pause, but I came across one of my wholesale email templates from back like 2011. And I looked at what we wholesaled this house for, that today is worth almost 10 times as much as I wholesaled it for. Now, I don't regret it because at the time I needed that 10, 12, $15,000 profit. But imagine if I would have had the mentality to like hold one, wholesale 3 or 4, hold one, wholesale 3 or 4. So anyway.
No, absolutely.
So after your 3-month, what you call this, a sabbatical of traveling with your book bag?
Yeah.
After that 3-month, what fears did you have when you made that decision to go full-time investing? What was those fears that you had at that time?
My fear was living at home with my parents and having to go get a job. Like, and that's probably not the answer you're looking for, but that was the God's honest truth. Like, that was my fear. I wasn't afraid of losing money on a deal. I wasn't afraid of failure or rejection. The current pain I was in was all the fear and motivation I needed. Right. So for people listening, like you might not be living with your parents, right? Like maybe you have a family, you have kids, you have responsibilities, right? So like find the pain of the situation you're in has to be greater than the fear of rejection or the fear of failure, right? Because if it doesn't, like if it doesn't shift, then you're always going to remain comfortable. And to me, comfort, like the middle class, to me is like the worst place you can be, because you're comfortable enough where like you don't have to go do something. But because of that comfort, you stay there. And then people don't get off the sidelines. One of the questions I always ask myself is, I try to future pace a lot. So I ask myself, like, if I'm doing X 12 months from now, how would I feel? Or what impact would that have on myself and my family? Am I robbing my family, my wife, my girls, the people that I serve and help? Am I robbing them in some way by not stepping into being uncomfortable so that I can grow and provide more and impact more? So really use a tool like future pacing and asking yourself the right questions to try to get you out of that, and understand that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall. You're going to fail. That's it.
Let's talk about
let's go a little deeper. So
yeah,
you wholesale for a minute. What's one of the biggest mistakes that you say you've made just in the wholesaling, not even anything
Yeah.
else, just in the
It's just
wholesaling?
wholesaling
What's one
itself.
of the biggest mistakes you've made?
Well, the biggest mistake I made, I'm going to share with you the best deal I've ever done. And the best deal I've ever done, I'll go ahead and fast forward to the end of the movie. Between myself and a partner, we lost $102,000. And so I lost 51 grand of my own money, 102. Why is that the best deal I've ever done? Had I hired a coach and a mentor prior to that, I would have never gotten involved in that deal. And up until that point, this was 2007, 2008 that we got involved in this deal. Up until that point, I always saw coaches and mentors as like an expense. Like, no, I've done some deals. Like, let me figure this out on my own. Why am I going to spend at the time $5 grand to hire somebody to coach and mentor me? Well, I can tell you that the pain of losing that 51 grand, I would have never, ever gotten involved on that deal had I had somebody who had been further along in the process and was able to scope and see what I was too blind to see. Right. And so I decided, because I was so wise, right, that I was going to get involved in my first luxury fix and flip in the year 2007. Right. So if you've never been through a market cycle, you know what happened in 2008 with the markets and all that. So we lost our shirt. Like, we got our, you know what, handed to us. And lost 102 grand. Fortunately, it didn't like put me under. But that, I always say, that's the best deal I've ever done, because from that point forward, since 2008 up until this day, I've never been without a coach in one area of my life. I've always had a coach.
So let's talk about that. So what you said is, you don't just have one coach, you have multiple coaches.
I have multiple coaches. Today I have 4 coaches. 4
coaches.
I got 4 coaches.
And most people do think it's absurd that you have to have a coach. And I tell people all the time, like, you need a coach for your real estate. You need a coach for, if you're a parent, you need a coach to be a parent. Like, you need somebody that's walking you through, because like you said earlier, there's no manual when it comes to that. There's no manual on what you should and shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to do it and avoid some mistakes, you're going to still have you're going to still have mistakes. It's the part of life. It's the part of lessons. But how much better is it when someone can walk you through it and tell you that's a blind spot right there that you might not see before it happens?
Yes. And I want to talk to the people that's listening. Success leaves clues, y'all.
Yes.
And it's not a coincidence that everybody that comes on this podcast, they have coaches.
Yeah, not just one coach.
Multiple coaches. We have multiple coaches.
Yes.
Like, we go to school and we learn, and we go to college and we learn, and when we start our jobs, there's somebody training us.
There's somebody training us.
That's a coach.
Yeah.
So understand, when you're out here in this entrepreneur world or whatever you're doing,
you need a coach.
You need a coach. You need somebody to guide you and point you in a direction and cut that learning curve down. That's one of the biggest things that a coach has helped us with, is just cutting that learning curve down. So where most times entrepreneurs are smart people. And
sometimes too smart.
We're too smart, and we get in our own way. I can figure it out. I figured out this, I figured out that, but you don't understand that the best people always have people that's better around them.
That's right.
And make sure that you're investing in yourself so that you can grow. And if you're watching and you haven't took action and you're wondering what's not going right or why you haven't quite figured out, it's probably because you don't have a coach.
Probably because you don't have a mentor, someone that you can call on that has some experience.
That's right.
All right. So at what point was the flip when wholesaling got pushed to the back end, or after the flip, we started back wholesaling?
So it's funny that you asked that question. Once I did that flip, like, I didn't have PTSD from flipping, but I started to have a bad taste in my mouth, not because of the money I lost, but I just didn't really enjoy the process. So while I've done my fair share of fix and flips, like, I just enjoyed, like, give me the slow nickel. What is that saying, right? It's the slow nickel over the fast dime or something like that. I just liked wholesaling. Like, wholesaling was simple for me. We would do some marketing. We'd find properties at a discount. We'd put it under contract. We'd, market the contract or find a buyer. It it just clicked for me more. I didn't like the 3 to 6 month process of fixing up a property and managing contractors. I just never enjoyed it. So again, while I have some experience fixing and flipping, like I think I suck as a fix and flipper. Like that's just like I would go to you guys for that stuff. Like I'm just not that good at it.
Listen, we hate it too. We hate the flipping part because of all of the uncertainties that come with it, which is why we call ourselves the ex flippers, because there's so many things that you just don't have control over when you're flipping. And you may be a little good at it, but you don't feel like it. If you don't have control, you don't feel like you're at your best. Like,
it's a completely different business model than wholesaling for sure.
Yes, totally. So how did the storage unit world come about? Talk to me about that and kind of tell us what you're doing in that space. Because I'm excited to hear about this.
Yeah, man, let me tell you, I wish I would have discovered self-storage a lot sooner, but God's timing is always better than ours, right? So how that came about is in 2018, I had mentioned I started to get a little bit burned out with the business. I started to really question, hey, do I want to continue? At that time, I had 8 or 9 team members, and we were doing deals here in South Florida. And my overhead in 2019 had ballooned. My monthly expenses had ballooned to about 40 to 45 grand a month. And so in Miami, our average deal was anywhere between 18 and 22 grand was our average wholesale profit. So I basically had to do 2 deals just to break even. And I got tired of just hustling deals. And I was coaching somebody at the time who owned a storage facility. And I started, when you coach people, you get an inside look into their business, the challenges, the opportunities. You get to zoom out and see things from a different angle. And here I am coaching this gentleman on like his storage business. And I started to see that like all the reasons I wanted to get involved in real estate, cash flow, depreciation, appreciation, all the tax benefits, building wealth, like not necessarily having to have employees and overhead and all that storage had. And I'm like, why am I not looking deeper into this asset class? So when COVID came, I think this was Q4 of 2019, I had decided mentally, okay, 2020, I'm going to shut down the wholesaling business. It's a wrap. I'm done. Even though we were still doing deals, when COVID came, it was like an accelerator. It was like a match to like just a bunch of fuel. And I'm like, this is God's blessing telling me, hey, let's not wait till the end of 2020. Let's just shut this thing down. So by June, I was completely out of the business. Like I was done. I had unwound the entire team over a 6-month period. I ended up selling some of the assets of the business. I didn't sell the business per se, but I sold off some of the assets of the business. And the best advice my coach gave me at the time, he said, Alex, I know you. He said, don't feel the urge to go conquer the next mountain and start the next business. He said, take some time off, gain some clarity, reflect, enjoy the fruits of your labor, spend time with your family, travel, like really seek to gain clarity from God. And so that's what I did. And creating that space, I think there's a lesson there for people listening, is create space for yourself to just think and process and receive the downloads from God. And if God doesn't resonate with you, then whatever you believe in. But for me, that's what it was. And I got clarity by October, November. Hey, I'm going to transition into storage. So December of 2020 is when I committed to storage. If I'm being honest with you, I came into the business overly confident, borderline cocky. I'm going to call myself out. I really thought it was going to come easy to me because of the prior success and knowledge I've had in real estate. And then March came around. I looked up and I had 0 results, like not even a warm lead. And when I got on a coaching call, I got ripped a new one. Like, hey, like, why do you think you don't have results? And I had to look in the mirror. I wasn't doing the work. Like I literally wasn't doing the work. I just expected it to come. And that's when I recommitted myself to storage. I got my first 43,000 square foot facility under contract almost 2 months later. And I ended up closing in September. And today I own 3 facilities and I've wholesaled another 3.
Sweet. Give me some rough numbers. Cause I'm a numbers person. I got an accounting degree. Give me some rough numbers. Hey, we bought it for around this range. Yeah. We put about this into it. We cash flow about roughly our projections, just something of that nature. Just to let me.
So one of my facilities, I own a facility in Amelia Island, which is just north of Jacksonville. Think of like the Hilton Head of Florida, like pretty affluent market, direct mail campaign. We got a call, and this was a gentleman that lived in Ohio, and his sister was running the facility in Amelia Island. One of the many things I love about storage is that, generally speaking, we look for mom and pop run operated facilities. And a lot of these mom and pop operators, they don't really treat it and run it like a business. Many of them don't have websites. Many of them don't have an automated gate. Sometimes they haven't raised rates in years, right? Like, so this would be the equivalent, Antonio, Ashley, of imagine if you owned a single family home that you bought 30 years ago. And imagine you were renting that home for $600 a month, let's just call it. And today that rent is like $3,600 a month, but you've never taken the time to raise the rent. Like that's the equivalent of what some of these storage owner operators do. And one of the things I learned about commercial is that unlike single family, where the value is determined by comps, comparable sales, in commercial and in storage, the value is determined by the net operating income. So the income the asset produces is what determines the value. And we were able to do a 90% seller financing. We bought that facility for $2.1 million. The seller financed 1.9, and we got some ridiculous terms. Like we got a no payments for an entire year, a 3.25 fixed interest rate. Okay. And so from day one, we were cash flowing. And so today we're at 63% occupancy, right? So why do I highlight that? We got plenty of room for growth. Our goal is to get to about 85, 88% occupancy. And we're cash flowing roughly between $5,000 and $6,000 a month on that facility after debt service, after expenses. And we're only at 63% occupancy. So storage can be very lucrative if you find the right opportunity.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
And that's amazing. With low overhead.
Yes.
Not as much maintenance. You're
not as much employees.
Dealing with tenants.
Do you even have any? I was just gonna ask you.
Zero. So check this out, guys. I have 104,000 square feet, about 838 units. I don't have any employees. I have one part-time boots on the ground person in each market, in each facility. And then I have a third-party management company that handles the operations. So outside of the expenses of the business, right? Like in typically storage, you're talking about a 35% operating expense ratio. So the margins are very healthy in storage. If you compare that to like multifamily operating expenses are more like 45 to 55%, depending on the area. So I like the fact that it doesn't take a lot to run and manage and operate these facilities. And we do it completely remotely. Like we run unmanned facilities, meaning it's not like the traditional storage where you walk into the office, talk to somebody and rent a unit. Everything is done here or online.
All right. So talk me through this because I just want to, because I am so with everything.
Antonio's face like
remotely. So how are they opening up the facility? Like it's a key, it's a number access. How do they know which one they?
Yeah. So no, great question. Cause honestly, probably 85% of the facilities are automated. So when people rent a unit online, they automatically get text a gate code, right? And that's a unique gate code that gives them access to enter the facility. And it tells them, hey, okay, like this is going to be your unit 17. Let's say it's a 10 by 20 and it's going to be open. And then they have an automatic padlock inside waiting for them. Right. And so they just go, they put their own code in the padlock. It's a Da Vinci system. So we see their code online. And then, yeah, if they don't pay, we just, our boots on the ground overlocks them. So, and then their gate code is shut off. So they can't access the facility. They're overlocked. So they can't access their unit. And that's the other thing I loved about storage is that if you own single family rentals and you're listening to this, you know that you got to go through an eviction process, right? And that takes some time. In storage, it's not evictions because they're governed by lien laws. So depending on the area, generally speaking, between 30 and 70 days, somewhere in that range, once you've published that you're going to auction a unit and you've checked certain boxes and gone through a certain protocol, we sell off the contents of their unit, we recoup a little bit of money, and then we put that unit back online to rent. So within about a 2-month period, if somebody doesn't pay, we can just auction their stuff and get that unit back online to rent.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
Man, you got my wheels going so fast.
I love that, Alex. I love it. Like
I love it too. It's pretty awesome. It's a cool business. It provides cash flow. It builds wealth. So if I told you I spent maybe 2 to 3 hours a week on the portfolio, that's probably a lot. Now, let me highlight this. It does take time, energy, and effort. I don't want to make this seem like it's a get rich quick scheme, because it's certainly not. It's a real business that has the benefits of real estate. The majority of the time that I spend these days on storage is in finding and locating the right ones, right? Like I've had to go through a lot of deals that don't make sense in order to get to the ones that do. And I've made my fair share of mistakes. I don't want to make it sound like I got it all figured out. But yeah, no, once you find the right facility and you raise the occupancy, it's what's called stabilization. It's a pretty hands-off business. It's a slow-moving business. Slow and boring, which I love. Slow, boring, and profitable.
Hey, be making money.
Absolutely. I love it.
I love it.
I want to go back. I want to go back to when you were getting ready to get that first unit. Well, not the first facility. What type of fears did you have? Because you was just entering back into the real estate space in a totally different market. Yeah. And although you were being creative with it, like what fears did you have structuring that deal?
What fear? It's a great question. And I'm really trying to take myself back, because I've always been the kind of guy that I'm more of a ready, fire, aim type of dude. Right. And so like when I get clarity about what I want, generally speaking, I go after it. Right. And I really, it's not that I don't have fears. I certainly have fears, but I've learned how to overcome those fears, because I know that if I went into something like storage, expecting not to make a mistake, expecting not to fail, then that's really setting myself up for failure. I knew I was going to have my bumps in the road and I was going to have challenges. I just built that into my plan. And I said, okay, well, once I'm faced with this, by the way, when I got into storage, I hired a coach, right? So like I do what I preach, by the way, right? And could I have figured storage out on my own? Absolutely. But would it have taken me a lot more time and possibly like a headache going back to 2007 on that deal? I lost money. I'm like, I'm not the smartest dude in the world, but like, I don't need to make that mistake again. Absolutely. Right. So to me, having the right person in your corner is like the ultimate insurance policy. It's not that my success is contingent on them. My success is contingent on me. I got to do the work. But I had somebody that had, like, think of me, like last night, my wife and I went to this restaurant called Chef Adrian's and we did dark dining. So it's a culinary experience where you're blindfolded. You're blindfolded the entire time, and they're explaining to you. You have to pick up the food, smell it, try to guess what you're eating. Antonio's face is priceless right now, by the way. So the reason I bring that up is, to me, going into wholesaling or storage or anything without a coach is like being blindfolded. Now, I was going into storage blindfolded, but I had a coach that had a flashlight telling me, hey, watch out over there. Hey, do this. Hey, consider this. And so to answer your question, I don't know that I had like a fear per se. I guess my fear was in not succeeding, and that to me wasn't an option. So I'd love to share something that I think can help people that are experiencing fear. I've just been able to get to the point where like you have to get through it. You have to get past it. And that might be easier said than done. But going back to what I said at the beginning of the show, if the pain is not greater than what it is you want, it's going to be tough to break through that barrier. Right. And I was so burnt out with wholesaling. I knew I wasn't going to go back to that. And I believed in this business model. I've seen others succeed. So I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. I just got to take my lumps. I got to hopefully learn, minimize the mistakes, understanding I'm going to make them, and just get after it. Like you're going to learn so much more by doing than by like watching YouTube, listening to podcasts. Like the education's important, but the doing is where you really, really learn.
Love it, love it, love it, man. You have had a successful journey from wholesaling to, you didn't talk about it, I'll talk about it, from coaching to having a mastermind to having a podcast to being in this storage space. I'm going to ask you a personal question, and I don't want you to answer fast. All right. I want you to think about this question and give me an answer. Okay. I believe that everybody have negative things around them happen to them, or that they have to overcome in order to reach success. Mm-hmm. So one of my students, she got to take care of her mom. One of our other guys we interviewed, he had ADHD. For Alex, what's that one negative thing that you've had to overcome that would have probably crushed everybody else or most other people?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say negative. I would say obstacle. I would say
Yeah,
obstacle because yeah,
Oh,
what's
yeah.
okay,
that?
okay. You can get some better words.
No,
Okay.
no, I'll shoot you straight, and I'll give you what immediately bubbles up for me, which is probably the thing. Uh, for a long time, and I've made a lot of strides in that area. For a long time, I cared too much about what other people thought about me. I was too
Mm.
concerned and consumed with how I might look, how I might sound. In fact, I almost didn't start the Flip Empire show. I was challenged
Really?
in 2016. At the beginning of 16, I said, I'm having all these conversations with people, and I'm basically saying the same thing. Like, I wish that was recorded so it could just help this person. It saved me a bunch of time, and I could just continue to like give that way. And I was challenged to start a podcast, and I was in my head about like, what if I say something wrong? What if I sound like an idiot? What if I make a mistake? Blah, blah, blah. Like all this crap. I started making up stories in my head about things that were fictional. Like nobody told me I would look stupid, sound stupid. Like nobody cared. Like it, I was my own worst enemy. And it was because I was concerned about how I would look, how I would sound. Like, what if people didn't like me? Like all this BS that at the end of the day doesn't matter.
It
And I just
doesn't.
had to get and then start. So starting the podcast, Antonio, you talk about being uncomfortable. Go back and listen to episode 001 of the Flip Empire Show, 002. Like I haven't done it in a while because I don't want to hear myself, but like I probably sounded like, let's just say I'm not as polished as I am today. So I was able to just get past that and say, hey, it's not about me. It's the intention and the heart behind wanting to help others. And so if I was selfish enough not to put myself out there because of stupid fears that weren't real, by the way, that I created, then I wouldn't have been able to help the people I've helped. And then who knows what kind of ripple effect that's had on their family, their life, their community. And so that's the first thing that came up for me is like just worrying too much about what people thought. Look, fast forward to 2020 when I shut down the wholesaling business, it came up for me again. I
Yeah,
said,
that's a big
well,
fear.
I was like, okay, well, am I an imposter? Like, if I shut down this wholesaling business, are people going to still listen to the podcast? Are people going to think I failed? Are people going to think COVID is what put me out of business? Like, all these stories entered my mind. And I'm like, no, like, I'm not that important. People don't care about me. Like, that's the truth, right? Like, people just, like, my family cares about me, but like, people are so consumed in their own stuff, they're not thinking about me. And they're probably not
Yeah.
thinking about you. Right. And so I had to get beyond myself. Like it's not about that. In fact, when I created a podcast, I think it was like episode 426 or 427. And I ultimately like just kind of like was very transparent. Hey, here's why I made this decision. I had so many people, like a plethora of people, guys, that reached out to me saying, dude, thank you for putting yourself out there. Like that really, like that helps me. I'm going through something similar that resonates with me. I had a lot of like, not a lot, but I had at least a handful of thought leaders that if I mentioned the name, you would know, that reached out to me and said, dude, I'm in the same place. Like, I don't want to keep doing this. Right. I'm in the same. And it was like, it was liberating. Right. So I think there's a lot of power in vulnerability.
Man,
Absolutely.
that's a word, and where I resonate with it, at least talking to people, is sometimes, and I got a young lady who's kind of dealing with this situation right now. It's crazy you say that because you're talking directly to her, even though you don't know her. You're literally talking directly to her. She's so afraid to fail because of what her family's going to say about her.
Yeah, man, I get it.
She's so afraid to fail because what her her kid friends and she's a part of associations and things like that. So she's so afraid to take that step because if she fails, she's worried about what others are going to say about her.
Yeah.
And total transparency, that girl has always been me too, though. Like worrying about just being put on such a high pedestal growing up, where okay, Ashley's gonna make the right decisions. Ashley's gonna do everything right. She's gonna do it right. So when you don't do it right, it's like, oh my gosh, the world knows. But no, the world does not care. The world moves on.
Keep moving.
You are the last of what they're thinking about. And I think the truth is when you share it is when so many people, your peers, are like, I was trying to hide that I'm going through the same thing, or here's how I got through it.
Right.
So here's how you can get through it to not even worried about it. It's crazy because the world puts us in this light that we're the only one going through whatever we're going through at that moment.
That's
When
right.
the truth is, no, there's so many other people going through the same thing. And if we just express it, if we just talk about it, if we just share it, we'll be able to get over it and get past it so much
Amen.
quicker. Oh my goodness.
All right. I got a selfish moment.
Okay, what's your
All right. So we just gonna act like ain't nobody watching. It's just me, you, and
Okay. All right.
Have you started coaching on the self-storage space yet?
Yeah, man. No, I love coaching and working with the right people. So earlier this year, I launched it's called Storage Wins, the Storage Wins coaching program. And so I basically now have taken my experience in storage. I believe it's the best asset class out there for a number of reasons. We don't have enough time for that. But and I started now pouring into people. So I'm coaching with a handful of people one-on-one. And then I started a small group coaching as well. And these are a lot of people that are coming to me are kind of looking to transition from single family into storage, or they're looking to add storage as kind of a department or branch of their business. And here's what's cool, guys, is that the skills that you're learning from Ashley and Antonio and like some of the other thought leaders out there, all those skills are transferable into storage. In fact, I genuinely believe it's easier. Storage is easier to me than single family homes. And if you guys are out there and you're building a rental portfolio, I started doing that. I found that to be very, very difficult. Storage is a lot easier. I'm telling you. So yeah, 100%. I am pouring my heart and soul into people that want to get involved in storage and are willing to do the work.
We've had a close friend that started just diving into storage facilities and just buying up like big buildings and turning them into storage facilities. And we were like, this is interesting. But to hear you say it and to hear okay, well, I don't even have to have a team in place. Like I need to have minimum team. You got to have something, but you can really take automations to the next level. You can take your marketing to the next level without having to physically have someone that needs to be there for $60,000, $80,000 just sitting there.
All right. So when's the next class starting up? Group class?
Tomorrow, actually. We have our next call tomorrow at 3 p.m. So we do a weekly small group coaching program. Yeah, for 90 minutes. Where I just kind of like I share. We leverage the power of community because you guys know how important. Like I've grown so much as a result of communities, masterminds, and so I'm taking the best of both worlds, where I'm not just teaching and sharing like exactly what I've done based on case studies, based on mistakes, lessons learned, but also leveraging the power of community. And every person listening to this and watching this, you have assets and resources. Some of you may have some money. Some of you may have time. Some of you may have knowledge, experience, networks, contacts. One of the great things about storage as an asset class is that you don't have to be all things and wear all the hats to all the deal. If you're out there and you know how to raise private money, you can go carve out a piece of equity in a piece of these deals just by raising money. Or maybe you're a good deal finder. Maybe you're a good connector, right? So there's all these creative ways that you can get involved in storage without necessarily having to be the operator that finds it, funds it, manages it, operates it. So yeah.
I'm already exhausted just by you saying that. Finds it, operate it, manage it. Yeah, that's already exhausting.
Yeah.
Someone said, okay, Ms. Harris said, my husband and I just talked about getting storage units. Please provide your coaching information. We are ready to learn. So, Alex, if they wanted to get in contact with you, I'm sure that you want to make sure that they're a right fit for your community. What's the best way to get in contact with you? How do they get more information?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. If you guys head over to www.storagewins.com, storagewins.com, just a simple 2-3 minute application process. And if depending on how that goes, if I like what you have to say, we'll schedule a call and I'll kind of share with you. But it's an awesome asset class. And if I can give something away, I'm embarrassed to say I don't have this on a web page or some fancy site. So if you guys text me, I'll give you my number. I'll just send you the Dropbox link. It's a presentation I recently did that dives deeper and it has some case studies. So 305-318-6213. 305-318-6213. Shoot me a text. Just say that you heard me on Ashley and Antonio's show, and I'll send you the Dropbox link. It's not a sales pitch or anything like that. It's just pure content. And I think that'll really open your eyes to the opportunity with storage and how you guys can get involved.
Give me that number one more time.
Yeah. So it's storagewins.com if they want to apply. And then the phone number for the giveaway is 305-318-6213.
Bingo. In the chat.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. So if you are looking to do something different, if you're looking to get started in real estate, I'm probably gonna join this class. I need to join this class with me because I want to learn about it. It's intriguing. Like Ashley say, like one of the guys in our mastermind, he got a big storage facility, but it's like you hear it, but you don't really dive into it.
It was just kind of like maybe that's just his next stepping stone. But I can understand why that's his next stepping stone because of all of the hustle and bustle that comes with flipping and having a portfolio. Like I can understand that.
Yes.
All right. I have a question. If you had some land, would you ever build storage units?
I would, but it's not what I'm currently focused on now. And I'll tell you why. So building, you have to make sure that you have land in the right market. So when you think about storage, you really want to look at the supply and demand within a 5 to 7 mile radius, right? So let's suppose you had the right piece of land in a market that had demands. Well, you have to think about now it's probably you're looking at a 36-month process, depending on what size of a facility you want to build, but call it a 1.5 to 3 year process to build. And then you're starting at 0% occupancy. So it's going to take you some time to fill up, get the occupancy up. You're probably looking at 2 to 3 years before you're starting to generate some cash flow. And for me, it's just an easier button to look for mom and pop existing operated facilities that are just not being optimized and they're not running it efficiently, for me to be able to step in, implement some very simple systems, raise rents, pull some levers that are going to increase the value of the facility. And so for me at this stage of the game, that's what I'm targeting and focusing on. Who knows, in the future, I might look at some development, but not right now. To me, that's a much longer process to go through.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely.
So in translation, that's too long for my money to be sitting there not making no
not
money.
making no return on my
not just that, it's extracting money from you that whole process, right?
Yes.
So
at a rapid pace. Dietrich said, my ultimate goal is to automate passive income with storage properties. Well, let's do it.
Let's make it happen. This is Connect right here that can get that learning curve expedited and get you right to the money ASAP.
My friends, I'm telling you one thing. I think you're 1, maybe 2 deals away from it completely changing your life. With storage, it's not like you have to go chase and do a bunch of storage deals. I know some friends that have a couple of strong facilities that generate a lot of cash flow, and that's how they make a living. That's what provides their family, and they're living nice lives. Like you're 1, maybe 2 deals away from having a completely different life. You don't have to go build this 50, 100 house portfolio, right? Like literally 1 or 2 deals can make a massive, massive difference in your life.
All right. One last question. When it comes to storage,
you guys are a trip.
When it comes to storage facilities, does the location matter?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, one of my biggest mistakes when I got involved in storage is my very first deal. I bought in a very rough market. And while I bought it right, and we're going to do very well, it's actually under contract to sell. We've had more management headaches, security issues, things of that nature. So don't make the mistake I made and violate the first rule of real estate: location, location, location. So you still want to buy in strong areas that have demand. So yeah, absolutely, location matters.
Sweet. All right.
Well, man, I want to thank you for giving us this time.
Yes.
This has been everything I was waiting for. Thank you.
Alex, Antonio has been hyped since he talked to you.
I almost had a conflict. And, I just be doing stuff sometimes. And I had booked a Section 8 lady, not to do on a podcast, but just as a training. and I booked it on the same day, and I almost
Wow.
cried.
Oh,
I said,
well,
I'm not changing Alex. I don't care what we do. I'm
Oh,
not
thank
changing
you.
Alex. But I actually didn't mess up.
Because he booked it
I
at
booked
night.
it for the evening.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well, either way, I'm glad you chose me. Hopefully, I was able to like deliver some value and help out
Yes.
people listening. So thank you guys for having me on. This has been genuinely, it's been a lot of fun. You guys are great hosts. You're fun. You don't take yourself seriously. You share your knowledge and your resources. And I have a lot of admiration and respect for you guys and just people that put themselves out there. And so, I mean, by the way, I'm excited to have seen how much you guys have grown in the last couple of years since we last
Thank
spoke.
you.
So just
Thank
awesome.
you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
So
you.
we're going to let Alex go. His number is in the chat if you want to contact him about anything from wholesaling to self-storages.
Probably, Alex, do you want to talk about wholesaling, or you just want to focus on self-storage?
I'll take storage over wholesaling any day. But here's the cool thing: you can actually wholesale storage because I've done 3 of those. So whatever can help people.
Bam, absolutely.
I knew the final answer. When your heart is Alex heart, and
yes,
it don't matter what you asking, he gonna give you.
Absolutely.
Not saying it's top of his list, but if he can help, he gonna help.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you again. We look forward to doing some business in the future and connecting.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, guys.
Are you still in Miami, Alex?
I am. I'm still in Miami.
I'm going to be in Florida next weekend.
Let's do it, man.
If you find some time on your schedule, I would love to connect and take you and the family out to have a look. Spend some time with you.
So I'd love that. Shoot me a text.
I'll shoot you a text. All right.
Cool. Thank you, Alex.
Appreciate it, bro.
Love you guys.
Peace.